Hey friends, this is Arcane. Hope you're well and staying safe. Today I want to show you how I made my remix for Alex Klingle's Colors Back, which is out now on Enhanced Progressive. So let's jump into the project. Okay, so here we are inside the Ableton Live project. Basically what I want to show you is the epic breakdown part with all the vocals, the chords and the drums, and it's basically my favorite part of this remix, and it sounds a little bit like this. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so let's go through each group. I have a lot of groups, as you can see. First we have this bassline, arpeggiated bassline, which was from the original actually, and sounds like this. And I actually added my own layer to it, and it was very time consuming because you know there's an option here to convert from audio to a new MIDI track, but it wasn't 100% accurate, so I had to slightly adjust some of the MIDI notes here, but I think it was worth it because this layer adds a lot to the low end, and especially to the mono signal you can hear here. And it's just a simple sound, but it's very strong on its together with the actual just a great layer to have. Always a good idea to have like a very centered mono layer for your bass lines. So next we have some of the drums, and they sound like this. So for the kick is playing each time the chord is changing, so it creates more creates more impact. For example, let me play it with the chords with the kick, and they sound like this together. So yeah, as you heard, every time the chords are changing, then a new kick is introduced, and also there are some of the cymbals are playing together with the kick too. So and for this we have some ride cymbals, some crashes, some reverb snares, and each adding like its own sound. So yeah, these cymbals add a lot of energy, especially in the top end. And next we have some guitars. So you can barely hear this in the actual in this part because the chords are super loud, but they are very these guitars are very subtle, but they add a lot of emotion, and we have some of the guitars are from the original, which is this one. We also have this like melodic layer, and we have this 16th note playing chords, actual chords. And as far as the processing for this, we have some distortion, chorus, equalization, some actually some bit crushing, and just to add some top end energy right there. But yeah, basically that's it. For the group, we have some glue compression and some filtering, especially the filter it's early in the track, just to introduce these elements, you know. So continuing, we have the bass, which are these ones. We have 2 layers. We have the real bass guitar sounding bass, and we have the actual sub, the low end, the very low end, feeling that low end bass energy, which is basically just a sine wave, and together they sound like this. Again, some EQ, some glue compression, and yeah, that's it for the bass. Very simple, especially the sine wave. Just want to control a little bit some of the peaks that it can create, because especially this one, because it's jumping a lot, as you can see here in the glue compression. So yeah, up next we have the pads, which are most of them from the original. So I grouped them all together into this pads and atmospheres group, and the only thing I added here was this string sound, E sharp, and it just adds a lot of tension. I almost always do this in my tracks, just add a string sound in the roots, in the key, playing the root note, or maybe the 5th, just to create that tension and emotion that you wouldn't have otherwise. And yeah, the chords, I mean the pads, are like very simple processing, because they were already processed in the original track. So yeah, so some slight EQ and compression. Okay, so maybe the best part, these are the chords. Let's hear them. So we have some silence, we have some spire, and actually we have some piano sounds. This M1, Korg M1, which is playing like the classic piano house sound. In this case, just a layer for the chords, but this sound is very mono as well. So each sound is like adding its own character to the overall you know, chords. So we have the first one is like the you know, the usual super saw. The second one is like a filtered facey chords, you know, playing. The third one is actually 1 octave higher, so that's a good trick. And this fourth, we have the piano sound here. We also have some pads, which actually are not changing the key, but since they are in the same key of the track, then it just fits. I actually had to pitch them down 1 semitone. But yeah, we have some white noise too, just acting like an effect. And the original pianos from the original song, you know. For the processing, we have some EQing, compression, this plugin, which is like an analog sounding EQ from Sound Toys, just boosting some of the top end here, just create more energy. And we have the usual effects like delay and reverb. This is interesting. I think I mentioned this, but very important. Sidechain. The sidechain is creating space for the kick. So every time the kick plays, most of these melodic elements are sidechain. You know, that was a very extreme example, but that's basically what it's doing, you know, just lowering the volume of these chords while the kick is playing, so the kick has more impact, and you know. So yeah, up next we have the vocals. We have this, which is like a gated vocal, and so I actually auto-tune it. I pitched it up 1 octave or 12 semitones. I add some distortion, EQing, compression, and the usual effects. And yeah, actually a lot of delay and reverb, because this is like a very in the background atmospheric sound. So next we have the vocoder, which is, I think, one of the biggest parts, one of the biggest elements of this part. Just listen to this. And basically what it's doing is you have an input signal and you are playing these vocals with the sound of the input signal. In this case, it's this one. I think, yeah, the trigger. For the trigger. So imagine, instead of playing those chords, you're actually playing the vocal, but with the sound of the chords, if that makes sense. So yeah, and the sound, it's heavily processed. As you can see, we have some OTT and EQing is cutting some low ends. The actual vocoder, which is, you know, set to external, and then for the trigger we have to choose. Whoops, I think. yeah, we have to choose here where do we want to, which is the trigger sound that we want to affect this vocal in this case. So we also have some compression just to control a little bit, and we have some massive stereo effects, and we have the delay and another delay and EQing and compression, EQing. Just a lot of effects, and also some limiting. Actually, I forgot to mention this one. In the chords, we also have some limiting, but just to control some of the peaks. Check this. So nothing too crazy, just 2 dB, 3 dB max of gain reduction for just to control the transients and the peaks of the chords here. So yeah, and we have the main vocal, which was from the original. I process it just a little bit, and because the original was sounding great already, so let's hear it.
We were breathing as one, same air, talking about all and nothing. Once, twice, lips and hands, feel them touch colors.
So we have this is a very small room EQ, you know, 10% and 1 second decay, so it's very small, very subtle, but just adds, you know, some small space to the vocal. And we have some multi-band compression. I love this for vocals because it controls, like, because you see vocals can be very dynamic, and some parts like the mid, for example, is more present than the low end of the vocal in some parts, and vice versa. For example, the top end can be very present, or very you can hear that in when she sings, when she pronounces the S's and the T's, and you know, these words that are very harsh. So you control them with this multi-band compression, and just to get a more controlled sound again.
On the same air, talking about all and nothing.
And I actually added a de-esser here, but yeah, the de-esser is
on the same air, talking about all and nothing. Once, twice.
Just for those words that are can be very harsh. So we have the glue compression. We have also some limiting just to control the peaks, and this is just a plugin just to see the waveform, the oscilloscope, I think it's called. Yeah.
On the same air, talking about all and nothing.
So with this one, you can reference if it's all good, or maybe there are some transients that are out of place and you want to control them. Then you know that you have to fix that, and then that's why this plugin is very useful. So lastly, we have the effects. You know, a bunch of effects, and they're like very straightforward, you know, drag and drop, and some EQing. And for the group, for the group, we have some glue compression, some delay, and some slight reverb, some room reverb. Nothing too crazy here. And yeah, so I think that's basically it for this track, this remix. Oh yeah, we have also some kick bones here. Let's see. Oh no, that's actually like a laser sound. Very nice. Yeah, but we have earlier in the track, you know, some impacts and stuff. So yeah, that is track. This is Alex Klingle, Colors Back, the Arcane remix, and it has been it has received a lot of support from the international DJs such as Above and Beyond, Super 8 and Tab, Andrew Rael, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm also grateful for all your comments on this track. Thank you very much. And in case you want to support it, the track is on Spotify, it's on Beatport, and also if you want, you can share this this track with your friends. Would be very much appreciated. So that's it for me. Thank you very much. Maybe see you in the next one.